human rights and the abuses meted upon the people. And we focus much perhaps on, the democratic space and, just how we're allowed to freely express ourselves and all that. When you look at ourselves as a country, what really needs to be done so that we can be able to balance the equation, especially when it comes to this? Because when you look at the number of cases that are continue to be reported, it is one thing.
Thank you, Linda. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 is one of the most progressive constitutions in the world. That has been said by so many people. In particular, the provisions about the Bill of Rights is so unique and well detailed, extremely elaborate. It starts with the most critical one. Article 26 talks about the right to life. Right. That's the most important provision in the Constitution and in the Bill of Rights. But unfortunately, there are certain individuals within various institutions who do not adhere to the provisions of the Constitution, which is supposed to take care of all of us. For example, a person who has been arrested has rights well elaborated in Article 49. And that's why I believe that if everybody upheld or lived by the principles of our Constitution, then we'll not be having these rampant abuses of human rights. Because there's no one who is above the law. The other day, I was so much heartbroken when I saw Evans Ondieki breaking down when the issues around the disappearance of Mwenda Mbijiwe in 2021 came up. And for a very long time, Kenyans have been concerned about extrajudicial killings. And that is not necessarily attributed to one specific government, because we have seen those things happening from the time of independence, during Kenyatta's time, during Moi's time, and even during Kibaki's time. I've always mentioned about a friend of mine called Oluji Pio, who was killed in 2009, and nothing has come out in terms of justice up to date. Then I've also mentioned the issue of Mwenda Mbijiwe. So this has nothing specific to do with a specific regime, but it's just a culture of bad manners among certain people. And that's why the institutions that are established are supposed to take responsibility and take to account people who are involved in abuses of human rights. And as you've stated, I've seen on one of the newspapers that are talking about people who are negotiating sexual offenses out of court settlements,
yes.
Which is not allowed, because remember the Njokindungu bill that became the Sexual Offences Act of 2006 was so detailed and so particular that it protected the rights of those people who are vulnerable in the society. So we cannot take back the gains that came through the Constitution and those ones that came through the right statutes and start having those kinds of negotiations. And that's why, as a society, all of us have a responsibility to take care of each other, also ensure that we take part in providing socio-economic rights. I've seen President William Ruto, in particular. We usually have times whenever there is a lot of rain, we have a lot of floods. They destroy people's lives. Immediately after floods, we have drought. People who are subjected to drought end up being subjected to floods again. And that's why the introduction of dams, construction of dams, addresses some of the socio-economic rights that are provided for under Article 43 of the Constitution. So I think as a nation, we should always look at the things positively and look at the better things that we can do as opposed to dwelling on the negatives alone. And wherever there's a negative, then we need to work as a country in unison to ensure that we have a general direction that is progressive. I
appreciate that you are huge on working together, that there's need for government as well as security entities, the citizens, civil society to come together. But mostly, and maybe as we close on this matter, is that we operate in the style of water and paraffin, where you will see the civil society in a different world, the government in a different world, the citizens in a different world. I mean, just how then do we get to achieve this? Because we say that as a country, we probably have done well, and this is in relation to just meeting up the international treaty obligations. Of course, we were talking about the Maputo declarations and all that. But reality is that we seem not to be getting it right. What will it take, Arnold?
That's quite a complex question, but then probably we need to look at it from why exactly do we even have a day that is marking the Human Rights Day? Of course, it's got its history the background is actually from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on 10th, I think, of December 1948. And this is when the world was trying to recalibrate and have a rules-based international order. Then, of course, there was the realization that you cannot have a rules-based international order if you do not have states that are also rules-based. But then where do you begin? You have to begin with the person. So, and this particular person has got some rights or entitlements that are universal, and therefore you're not going to launch war or come up with laws that degrade others. So there are universal human rights. So the UN then takes up that, because that is the foundation upon which this whole thing called the UN is actually built. There are so many things. People talk about wars and everything else, but the very base is actually human rights. So there are very many ways people have actually tried to work around. So let me begin with what is positive, at least in our space. There are three things generally that we use to talk about human rights working around. Number one, of course, we have got a very vibrant civil society. Nascent, yes, because most of what we have today is a civil society that has started regenerating in the last 10 years or so, after there was a serious purge as we went into the Hague. There was total disorientation of the civil society, because at that particular time, I think the administration thought that it's the civil society that had done a lot of seeding for the Hague thing. So what we have is what I would call a nascent civil society, but it's still very vibrant. The other thing is elections, of course, periodic elections. Of course, elections will give you the window to correct the wrongs, to try voice up where things are not right. So that is actually a positive. Then the third is a legal framework. We've got a Bill of Rights in the Constitution, and that specifically is what makes Kenya's Constitution very progressive. So we have that, but then has that really taken care of the human rights situation in the country? Still today, there is the element of what I would call safety from the state. No Kenyan in this country, unless you are the political class of the day, are safe from the state. So safety from the state is still a big challenge. Of course, the human rights cut across from the duty bearers, being government, and then, of course, the people on this other side. And the whole idea of having government, by the way, is very basic. Government started so simple as a way of taking care of law and order, and then protecting the people against each other and against external force. But over time, if there has been anything that is actually constant, is an ever-growing government. Government sneaked into the economy. Before that, the government was never part and parcel of the economy. Government was simply about law and order. They got into the economy. They've gotten now into regulating and getting into people's business now. So the big government concept now is all over. So the safety, the component of safety from state is what we are worried about, because the government has got monopoly of violence. They've got much more than any other actor out there. So you are going to try and make noise, but then you are being told these are the laws that govern us as a people here. And sometimes you do not even get help coming from outside. So as much as we have got a very vibrant constitution, we have got a population that fairly know their right, and we've got an environment that slightly gives you room to fight for your rights. We still are not doing very well, because if you look, it depends with the organization that is doing the ratings. We are not doing well, whether it is Civicus, whether it is the US State Department, whoever it is. You still have got a repressed setting. People are still disappearing. Like, for example, we are here very comfortable, yet we know that there are people who have been abducted in the past. Nothing was done about it actually when they were released. No one has actually been held to account. And that is where we are. So already that sends signals. So sometimes we are not so different from the neighbors that we laugh at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting. And I think we save that conversation for other sessions. Or